look at the anti-white proposition, there can be no all-white countries anywhere, and there can be no all-white areas in the formerly all-white countries. This is the anti-white proposition. It doesn't matter if you go to France, it doesn't matter if you go to Germany, it doesn't matter if you go to America. You know, you've got all of these countries trying to make themselves non-white, and this is happening, of course, in every white country, all white countries. No one's exempt from this stuff. And of course, it just doesn't happen that way. That doesn't accidentally occur. Psychological warfare means war. It means there's planning. It doesn't happen by accident. You can't have something like that without a plan. There has to be an agenda. You're not going to accidentally try to make China non-Chinese.
This idea of multiculturalism we see espoused today so frequently from every facet of society, it's not new. People would like to believe that it's new, and those that don't seek to support it are old-fashioned. No, this ideology goes back thousands of years. It goes back to our history for a long, long time. And what it leads to is what you see in Babylon. No white people, a society gone. And we will end up the same way if we don't stop it. It's as simple as that, you know. History can serve as a lesson for us, and this isn't new, and we're doing exactly what's been done before.
Even if you expose them to authentic information, you still cannot change the basic perception and the logic of behavior. He will refuse to believe it. The psychological shock when they will see in future what the beautiful society of equality and social justice means. No one is able to come to sensible conclusions in the interests of defending themselves, their families, their community, and their country.
אנחנו הצלחנו לבלום את הכניסה של המסתננים מאפריקה לישראל, אחרי שהיינו באיום של כניסה של מאות אלפים. החודש לא נכנס מסתנן אחד לערי ישראל, זה כבר כמה חודשים שאנחנו משיגים את התוצאה הזאת. בחודש הקרוב אנחנו נשלים את בניית הגדר לאורך גבול סיני, ועכשיו אנחנו עוברים לשלב השני, וזה השלב של החזרה.
So, do you feel that you are British?
I identify myself as Muslim. If I was born in a stable, you know, I'm not going to be a horse. I mean, this is just an island I was born in.
Rumeysa and Chowdhury both live in East London, which is home to one of the largest Muslim populations in the UK. In one part of town, Rumeysa and his associates have set up so-called Sharia patrols to go out and discourage behavior that they deem un-Islamic. But the patrols are not always so friendly. Online clips give a very different picture. A woman in a short skirt is abused.
Mary, it's Great Britain.
This we don't care. It's not so Great Britain.
Get the prostitutes off our streets!
Walking through London with Rumeysa, you experience an alternate reality where there is no compromise and all conversations are one-sided.
Ultimately, I want to see every single woman in this country covered from head to toe. I want to see the hand of the thief cut. I want to see adulterers stoned to death. I want to see Sharia law in Europe, and I want to see it in America as well. I believe our patrols are a means to an end.
If we can't get them out, we'll breed them out.
In 1970, a United Nations resolution condemned Rhodesia and urged the world to supply moral and material assistance to Rhodesia's enemies operating out of Zambia to the north. When these Marxists suffered because they had cut themselves off from food, electricity, and jobs that they got from Rhodesia, the United States government sent aid to make up the difference. In 1976, Secretary of State Henry Kissinger actually went to Zambia to promise such aid. The resulting new government in nation after nation submits to the socialistic one-world system that is being built. And now, South Africa. President Reagan, on September 9th of 1985, sent the following official message to the Congress of the United States. I hereby report to the Congress that I have exercised my statutory authority to declare that the policies and actions of the government of South Africa constitute an unusual and extraordinary threat to the foreign policy and economy of the United States, and to declare a national emergency to deal with that threat. That's incredible. That's absolutely incredible. Well, of course, that led to the Anti-Apartheid Act of 1986. It called for the unbanning of terrorist organizations such as the African National Congress and the release of what they called political prisoners with the name Nelson Mandela mentioned by name.
A memorial for all South Africa's white farmers who've been killed since apartheid ended in 1994. 3,338 murders in 16 years. That is one white farmer killed every 36 hours.
There are powerful forces in South Africa working in league with the one-worlders and internationalists who are subverting independence wherever it exists and helping communists wherever they operate.
The turning of black people into revolutionaries by outside groups took place during the entire course of the 20th century. Beginning with the founding of the NAACP, we had what has come to be known as the Black Jewish Alliance. This group of people used the situation in the South to radicalize black people, to turn them into the revolutionary avant-garde that was intended to overthrow the government of the United States. Culmination of this was the Civil Rights Movement. The government got involved and began funding violent groups. Sergeant Shriver, head of one of the government offices of the War on Poverty, gave $1 million to a gang in Chicago known as the Blackstone Rangers. What you have is the rise of this revolutionary spirit among the black groups spread out throughout the black community.
1967, Harold Cruz, a professor of black studies at University of Michigan, writes a book called The Crisis of the Negro Intellectual. in which he recounts his experience as a communist in Harlem. And he says, basically, the Jews used us. So for 70 years, the Jews were trying to turn the blacks in this country into revolutionaries. Then they succeeded finally with groups like the Black Panthers, which was a total Jewish creation. Ask David Horowitz about that. He was the guy who was the fundraiser for them, the famous neoconservative Israel lobby guy now. They succeeded in creating these black revolutionaries, and then the establishment says, well, we've had enough, and they go in and kill them. And that was the end of the Black Panthers. Now, that was 1969. 69 is the year of the Stonewall riots. So guess who the new revolutionary avant-garde is? Also supported by the Jews. The homosexual movement is the successor to the civil rights movement. Of course, there was a little interim called the feminist movement, but that was a black operation too, simply to double the workforce and drive down wages. So now you have the homosexual as the avant-garde, also run by the Jews. We have Vice President Joe Biden to thank for that. He gave a speech to a number of Jewish organizations in which he thanked them for being behind gay marriage. It was embarrassing to the Jews, but Joe Biden said it, so therefore it's not anti-Semitic to say that the Jews are behind gay marriage, because Joe Biden said it, and he should know. He's Vice President of the United States.
You could be forgiven for mistaking this toddler for a little girl, but 2-year-old Max Price is actually a boy. Max's parents are raising him gender neutral, meaning they dress him in both boys' and girls' clothes.
He might be just playing dress up, it might be something he might still do in years to come, but at the end of the day, we're just following the way he wants to be.
At home in Walsall, West Midlands, Max plays with cars and dolls, and he is encouraged to wear trousers and dresses.
We listen to him very carefully.
Parents Lisa, 23, and Martin, 34, hope that Max will grow up having a better understanding of women.
A gender-neutral restroom has been established in the White House complex. Located in the Eisenhower Executive Office Building, the facility is accessible to staff and guests alike.
And do you think that the United States will see the first gay president or the first woman president?
We already have it with Obama, so let's just calm down.
Got it.
You know Michelle is a
I'm sorry, she's a what?
A transgender. We all know.
Oh my gosh.
Distinguished guests, and men and women of the finest military in the world. Most of all, Admiral Mullen, Deborah. Michael and I also want to acknowledge
Standing 7 feet tall, the design features Satan in the form of Baphomet. This goat-headed being has wings and a beard, and he's surrounded by a pair of adoring children.
UNESCO is a sub-organization of the United Nations. Julian Huxley is the former director of UNESCO. He was Humanist of the Year. He's a theistic philosopher, member of the Communistic Colonial Bureau of British Fabian Society, and signer of the Humanist Manifesto too. Niebuhr is UNESCO's co-founder, and he signed CIECOS. What is CIECOS? These are the founders. It is the position of CIECOS that contraceptive services should be available to all, including minors, who should enjoy the same rights of free and independent access to contraceptive care as do others. It is the position of CIECOS that the use of explicit sexual material, sometimes referred to as pornography, can serve a variety of important needs in the lives of countless individuals. Under Huxley's guidance, they prepared a guide for teachers. Now, I would like the parents to take a note. What is the United Nations Guidebook for Teachers? In the classroom with children under 13 years of age, before the child enters school, his mind has already been profoundly marked, often injuriously by earlier influences, first gained, however dimly, in the home. So UNESCO's aim is to change the mindset of your children, to turn it against any values that the parents might instill in the mind of that child. On page 8, the teacher is told, the kindergarten or infant school has a significant part to play in the child's education.
Now we have sex ed in kindergarten. This week, hundreds of outraged parents showed up at a school board meeting in Helena, Montana, carrying signs upset about the school district's plans for a new sex ed curriculum. Again, starting with kids as young as 5, teaching them about body parts, proper terms. Here's a few of them: penis, vagina, nipples, testicles. For a 5-year-old, and you move on to 1st grade, taught about same-sex love. 5th grade, options for sex, including anal penetration. That's a 10-year-old.
Guess when kids go to school in England? Age 3.
And on the phone, a parent in the district, Brian Ackerman, has 3 young daughters. What, a 1st grader, 3rd grader? You're going to have a kindergartner next year. Brian, your reaction to think that your little girls might be taught this, especially your youngest, who's going to be a kindergartner soon?
You know, right now my reaction, Mike, is I guess it's the lack of somebody that stepped up and said the age appropriateness of this has been established by X, and X's qualifications are. More so right now, it seems that the material has been introduced and the people that brought the curriculum together as a group decided, well, at this point it's age appropriate, and we really haven't seen where that age appropriateness comes from. You know, what's the impetus, what's the driving factor, who decides this, when did they decide it, and how did they decide it?
Right. Well, let's ask Dr. Bruce Messinger. Bruce, seems to be a big question here. Who's deciding age appropriateness? Did you have parents involved as you were putting together this curriculum?
Our process was that, as a part of the revamping of the curriculum, is that we looked at what we had in place presently, looked at our practices within the district, and we also looked at national guidelines, national health standards, looked at the guidelines for sexual education, which were developed by a diverse set of organizations, and also looked at the American Academy of Pediatrics advice they would give on what would be age or developmentally appropriate to be introduced to children at different stages from elementary through middle school and high school. So we took guidance from that, as well as committee members that were pretty representative. Some included parents, yes.
Okay, Brian, there was the answer for you. A lot of different sources. Is that good enough for you, or not specific enough?
Right now it's not specific enough.
Okay.
I would like to see someone at some point step up and say, this is the group that established it.
What about these world religions? Now, this is the crux of the matter. Now, this is a very interesting man, Robert Mueller. He's the former Assistant Secretary General to the United Nations. He wrote, "We must move as quickly as possible to a one-world government, a one-world religion, under a one-world leader." Robert Mueller writes, "The underlying philosophy upon which the Robert Mueller School is based will be found in the teachings set forth in the books of Alice A. Bailey." So the philosophy is based on Luciferian channeled writings preparing for the coming of Lucifer. No human force will ever be able to destroy the United Nations. For the United Nations is not a mere building or a mere idea. It is not a man-made creation. This is Robert Mueller speaking, former Under-Secretary General of the United Nations. If it wasn't man-made, then who made it? At his choice hour, the Absolute Supreme will ring his own victory bell here on earth through the loving and serving heart of the United Nations.